Hi everyone. In this video, I want to talk about the historical context for studying the current and contemporary politics and structures in Iran. So while the historical context in much of what we're going to talk about is not explicitly tested, it is really important background information to help you better understand how the regime came to be and its relationship with the US and also its relationship with the people and how Iran maintains power. So let's get started.
Iran sits at the crossroads of the Islamic world. Linking the Middle East, the Caucasus, and Central and South Asia, Iran has struggled to balance the benefits and risks of its geographic position. Iran's core is located in the western Zagros mountain range. From this secure geography, the beginnings of the Persian Empire spread throughout Iran's mountainous topography, securing the Alborz, the southern Zagros, and much of the Iranian plateau. Iran's primary geographic challenge has been to secure itself from the many external threats on its borders. Arabs, Mongols, and Turks all conquered ancient Persia at various times, prompting Persia to expand its territorial control whenever possible to establish a buffer to protect its core. At its height, the Persian Empire stretched from the eastern Mediterranean to the Hindu Kush Mountains, bridging modern-day Europe and Asia. Echoes of this former empire can be seen even today, with Iran's support for Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Assad regime in Damascus, and the Shiite-led government in Iraq. Iran has also struggled to unite and control the various language and ethnic groups located within its core territories, a process impeded by the country's difficult terrain. Modern-day Tehran is aided by its large hydrocarbon reserves. Iran boasts the fourth largest oil reserves and largest natural gas reserves in the world. The 20th century saw British, Russian, and American interests competing not only to control Iran's strategic geographic location, but its significant energy reserves as well. This modern-day reliance on energy reserves has resulted in Iran's focus on securing the Strait of Hormuz and expanding control over the Persian Gulf to secure its core territories from the threat of outside invasion.
So a great little review there talking about the geography. So how do you see Iran's social cleavages reflected in its geography? And it also talked about, it also talked about Iran's proven oil and natural gas reserves, which are essential to this story and play an essential part in Iran's wealth and also causing the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Well, not causing it, but influencing it. So Iran today is a theocracy, and a theocracy, just to remind you, is when the religious leader or leaders is also in charge of the government, or they're also the political leaders. And Iran has proven oil reserves. In the video, it mentioned that Iran has the fourth largest amount of oil in the world and number one in natural gas. And this really is how the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and his father before him were able to gain such vast amounts of wealth. The Shahs leased oil fields to Western companies and exported huge amounts of oil for the to gain wealth. So by 1979, the oil and the associated industries with that provided 97% of all foreign trade for the country, 97%. And it accounts for a majority of Iran's GNP, or gross national product. And because of that, the government raked in huge amounts of money. So the people actually paid very low taxes. But that also meant that the government didn't need the people anymore to pay their taxes to make the government run, which means that the government can do whatever it wants and be more repressive, right? The video mentioned that they have a long history of strong independent rule, such as the Safavids and the ancient Persian Empire. The Pahlavis take over in 1925 and control it until the revolution. They also have a history of being influenced by outsiders or living under control of others. And in the 20th century, that's really done through companies, right? Western oil interests. So from 1941 to 1979, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was the ruler of Iran. He was a secular Muslim, so not particularly deeply religious. He was authoritarian, and he sought to build really strong ties with the West and was influenced in not only in economics, but also in Western culture. And he kind of pushed that on some of the people. He also built a brutal secret police force called the Savak in 1950 to consolidate his power. And while for some in Iran, some people are seeing economic profits and there's a growing middle class and Iran is growing and growing and growing, many of the people felt left behind. And there were disappearances, and the majority Shia population, especially the clerics and people living in the more rural areas, were feeling left behind and isolated. And so because of that repression, right, there was an attempt of a coup against the Shah. Mohammad Mossadegh briefly came to power, but the Shah was reinstated with the help of the United Kingdom and the US. And so that just created further backlash and further repression and inflamed the Shia clerics, made them intensely angry. And this is furthered in the 1963 White Revolution. It was a series of political reforms. Most prominently, the reforms centered around expanded rights for women. So they got the right to vote, or suffrage. There was heavier restrictions on polygamy, and women were allowed to work outside the home more actively, have a more active presence in public life. There was also land reform and infrastructure reform, but it's the discussions and the expanded rights for women that really inflamed the conservative Shia clerics, the religious leaders. And one of those, and the head of that faction, was the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Ayatollah is actually a religious title. It's not a name. And he called for the overthrow of the government, and he was making several speeches. There were mass protests. And so in 1964, he is exiled. He is forced to flee. He goes to Iraq and various other places. But for the next 10 years, more than 10 years, he is sending back messages to Iran, radio addresses, written speeches, and so forth, calling for revolution and sustained protests. And so the Savak, the secret police, is cracking down, and there's more and more repression and anger towards the Shah. This comes to a head in 1979. The 70s had economic downturn. There was sustained protest against the Shah, and Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was in declining health. He was late in his 70s. He and his wife leave on vacation, and they never return. Eventually, they go to the U.S., where he is admitted because he's dying from cancer. And when the Shah leaves, Khomeini returns from exile and leads a mostly nonviolent revolution against the Shah, right? So you can see in this image, they're toppling statues of the Shah. And Khomeini really embodied this defense of Islamic fundamentalism and Shiism. And he articulated this resentment against the elites who are making huge amounts of money and westernization. And so the influence of outside people on Persian culture, which is the dominant ethnicity in Iran. So by April 1979, there is a referendum which officially ended the monarchy and established the Islamic Republic of Iran, creating a theocracy. And in that theocracy and in that constitution, they named Khomeini the supreme leader or head of the Islamic Republic. In the aftermath, he began a cultural revolution to try and purify Iran from all of its Western-inspired values, and there is a heavy crackdown on opposition. So this is when many pro-Western Iranians, or even non-pro-Western Iranians who are just caught up in this movement or not being supportive enough of the revolution, this is when they all flee the country and they disperse around the world. They settle in high numbers in the UK, in the United States, for example. And all that opposition is suppressed through a really important group, which we're going to talk about a lot this year, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They're the internal security force in Iran. They're the ones who are loyal to the supreme leader, and that's where a lot of the power really comes from their military control over the state. And the final event, just to be aware of, is in late 1979 is the start of the Iranian hostage crisis. That's when the U.S. Embassy in Iran was taken over by student protesters, and 66 people are ultimately held for 444 days. They are released when Ronald Reagan becomes president of the United States, and Jimmy Carter is no longer president. And the reason why what caused the embassy to be attacked was the United States refused to return the Shah, to extradite him back to Iran. One, because he was dying of cancer, and two, because they were almost sure he was going to be executed. All right, so that's just a very quick historical context for the Islamic Republic of Iran. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.